And here we are with a special N-World TV of unboxing of some Pathfinder Battles minis, which will be released next week at Gen Con. And I won't be there, but my fellow podcast co-host, Asmith, will be. So, yeah, it sucks.
Damn right.
Doesn't it?
Well, at least part of us are going to be representing. But, yeah. These miniatures are looking sweet. I got my first physical eyeballs on them at PaizoCon. Although we didn't get to touch them, they were locked away in the case. Got to take some pictures, but
well,
I'm consistently impressed.
I had these. These were, obviously, they're from the line. And Justin Zirin at WizKids sent me these to review, and I have had them now for over 2 months, man. I got these. Justin sent me these things back. I think I got them on June 5th or 6th. And so I've been sitting on these for a couple of months. And I said, you know what? I'm going to wait. I'm going to hold off, and then I'm going to do some unboxing video, and I'll show that, release that just, the week before Gen Con, and give them the hype they deserve and so forth. And I originally, when I looked at them, I kind of failed my will save in the first week. So I did open this particular Rune Giant. This is the big, huge special. And there were a couple of huges, which I looked at, or at least one of them I did, and 2 of the small boosters. But I haven't opened 6 of the other boosters. And I did notice some problems with some of the stuff. And we'll go through them and show everybody what they're like. First of all, this is the huge Rune Giant. You can order this individually, and otherwise it's available for purchase for those who bought full sets from some retailers and so forth. But here it is. And this is what you get. There we are. Comes back. And you can see it's in 2 parts. It has the sword itself. I've not yet taken this thing out of its packaging. It has this kind of well, let's get some wrapped up kind of wire thread stuff going on. Let me see if I can take that off.
Kind of around the waist and twisted behind the packaging
Exactly, yeah. People who are used to, who purchased, they use this stuff in a lot of the D&D line. Standard stuff for boxing of toys these days, frankly. I know that a number of the large D&D dragons had this kind of protective material.
WizKids does it also with their large Clix lines as well.
Yes, quite true. Quite true. And, the big Galactus, if you saw that.
Yep.
There's that one. And the sword. So here we are. Put that aside. And there's no threading, I don't think. And perhaps I'm wrong. No, it doesn't. You just push it right in. You just push it right in. And I guess you angle your sword appropriately. Seems to be sticking out a bit. I guess that's the way it is. And so there you have it. There's our Rune Giant. The picture here is not awesome in terms of the colors, but I can tell you that live in concert, this is a rather impressive miniature. I guess if I could, well, we'll get out one which is at standard scale in a moment here to give you an idea of how large the Rune
Well,
Giant
you're on a
is.
proper grid, so you see the miniature sitting there.
Yeah,
on a
it's
proper,
huge. Absolutely.
It's a 4x4.
Yeah, it's no small thing. When that thing comes down on your player characters around book 6, this is going to be book 1. It's all book 1 now, isn't it? No longer book 6.
Calling that a miniature is sort of like military intelligence.
It's a bigature.
A bigature.
Anyway, so here is one of the smaller boosters. I did open 2 of these originally, and then I said, I'm going to save the rest of the 6. But there was a problem. I don't know whether this is the one that it was, or whether it was. No? Yes, it was. This was the problem. Now, you see how this thing is packaged. There was a problem with this particular box, and I wanted to show people what the problem was. It's packaged so it comes out, so you have these 2 eggshell things, kind of eggshell plastic as I refer to them in the review, and they're facing one another inside the box. All right. So on one side you have the large. In this case, it's a stone giant, and then you've got 3 of the smaller ones on the other side. Now there is a problem, or at least there was, with this particular mini, and I think that something. Yeah, exactly. If you have a look at these 3 small minis here, you will see that there is an issue. This is a ghoul, and you will see that this particular ghoul can, be looking from some support from the government, because apparently he's permanently disabled now. Not only is he dead, he's missing an arm. Now, how that happened originally was as a consequence of the packaging. You'll see, of course, that you have this large stone giant in here. And when I originally opened this, the stone giant had come out during the course of shipping from its, I've since put it back in quite carefully, into the bottom of this eggshell thing. So it was moving around inside the box. And as a consequence, because it's a pretty big miniature, it was moving around just enough so that it hit and broke off the arm of this ghoul. So that's a problem. I had saved the ghoul. Maybe it's in the box somewhere here. Yep, it is. I did save the arm. I'm going to do some fixing on it. So I've got the arm. But it was broken off during the course of shipment.
And you're saying that you think the reason why this is occurring is because they're in a face-to-face configuration where the product can bounce off itself.
Well, I mean, it can if it slips out of the base of this particular eggshell, which it did when I opened it, and as a consequence, it moved around and it did break off the arm. So, look, this has happened previously with some of WizKid's products. It's a consequence of the calibration of the plastic which they're using. There are pluses and minuses to everything that you do when it comes to making these kind of pre-plated plastic miniatures. And WizKids has been doing this for almost a dozen years now, since they started the original Mage Knight line. Essentially, what WizKids does is they use a harder plastic than Wizards of the Coast use for the D&D miniatures line. The principal trade-off for that is that the plastic itself can retain more detail from the mold. So you get a better looking sculpt overall from WizKid's approach, as opposed to the approach which had been used in the D&D mini line. And that's good. If you're looking for something which just has an overall better quality look to it, the WizKids minis do look better than the D&D minis in terms of the sculpt. The trade-off is that the plastic is more brittle and it can break. I have, a couple of thousand of Mage Knight minis, and I've got a bag of over 100 WizKid Mage Knight Archers. Every one of them has a broken arm on it. I bought that in bulk off of eBay for not a whole lot of money, so I didn't mind doing it. But that's it. It's not confined or unique to this particular line. I expect that over the course of time, WizKids has addressed this and made these things a little less brittle. But in this particular case, because of the way the packaging works, it just happened. So, something to pay attention to when you open your minis. There were some complaints about that in Heroes and Monsters in terms of the packaging there, and some of these things came off broken. I think in particular the Sela miniature, which was the Paladin, the original Heroes and Monsters set. A number of shields had come off during the course of shipment in that particular line, but obviously that was caused, I think, probably from improper glue. It wouldn't have been caused from bouncing around during the course of shipment, because there was nothing else inside the box for it to bounce around in. They were all packaged individually. But not so in this case. So in any event, in terms of the miniature we have, obviously we have the Stone Giant, which I think is a great looking sculpt, and it's a pretty impressive looking mini overall. Otherwise, I think we have what amounts to a Faceless Stalker, and in this particular case, I'm not sure what that is anyway. Another sort of, we'll identify them all at the end. And this one I had opened up previously as well, so this, although it's been a couple months since, oh yes, I remember this. This is quite impressive. I thought this particular miniature was impressive as all hell. I'm really impressed with the sculpt, and the paint job on this is really quite phenomenal for a pre-painted mini. This is one of the best examples that I've seen so far of the Pathfinder Battles line. It's just a very, very cool miniature. I'm quite excited about that one. And then we get to these. Perhaps I've opened this up somewhere else. I think I have. This miniature is really quite impressive. You can tell it's this whole bird-like thing. This particular one is called the Lamia kukrama or something like that. Yeah, my pronunciation is off. The particular base that it is on here in terms of this miniature, it's kind of a pseudo-transparent rock thing here. But the quality of the sculpt and the paint job on this common mini is really damned impressive. I remember when I was speaking with Justin Zirin at WizKids, we were talking about the nature and quality of this particular miniature line, and he was going on about how much he thought the Rune Giant was great and how these other huge ones turned out, and they were really quite impressive. And I don't disagree with him. The large and the huges are really quite exceptional miniatures. But for the cost that you're going to pay for, the Rune Giant and the other huges, so you're looking at 20 or 30 bucks a mini, basically, or a biggie, as the case may be, how you want to refer to them. Frankly, you expect them to be pretty damned impressive if you're going to buy an individual mini out of the box for 20 or 30 bucks, I think. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
I think it's the commons that stand out that make you really go, wow.
Yeah.
The exceptionals should be exceptional, just like you say. You put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah. So I don't mean to take anything away from the quality of the Rune Giant and the other huges that we're about to look at. They are excellent miniatures, both in sculpting and painting. But for the price that you're going to pay for them, you would expect them to be excellent. And in that sense, they just simply achieve what it is your reasonable expectations are already looking forward to. This particular miniature, which is a common, is, I think, awesome. And I dug out my Vrock from the D&D mini line from many years ago, going back quite a while. And this one just fits in perfectly with the sculpt, and the colors are even match up. That kind of sickly purple on the Vrock, it matches nicely. It's just this miniature, this common, this has me far more excited in many ways than this one, because I expected the Rune Giant to be awesome for the price. I wasn't, and I didn't have that same expectation for a common, and this, I think, is where the quality of these miniatures really do lie. And I can tell just feeling and moving the miniature around, this plastic is not as brittle as some of the others. There's a fair bit of bend in the wings, so they've obviously, the temper or the calibration of the plastic has been adjusted so that it's not going to be as fragile as it might otherwise be. And pretty sweet, I think. So let's move on here. This is one of the huges. I forget which one this is. I guess we'll see in a moment. Ah, yes. This is the Treachery Demon, which is really just a non-copyrighted name for the Glabrazu. And in this particular case, this huge miniature does have the wire reinforcement inside the package, so just let me take that off. Or perhaps try to take
That's
it
a
off.
pretty bitchin' figure.
Oh, it's awesome. I was very happy to see this thing when Eric Mona first showed it and demonstrated it on his Friday blog. And here we have it. I don't think that the pictures really do this one justice. You can see obviously the paint details in the mouth. It's they've gone up in there and they painted all this kind of stuff. This is a really impressive mini. Now, again, it's a huge. So by the time that you're paying for these things, I think they're close to about $20, $18, $23, $25, depending on where you get them and what you paid, the retailer for them. So this is an expensive miniature by any stretch. But still, you're getting what you expect. It looks impressive. It's got a significant heft to it. I mean, that's a big mini. And of course, it's a huge. So there you are. Give you an idea of the relative size to these things. And the other huge, which I'd already previously opened, I was quite impressed with this particular one as well. Now let me show you. Oh no, different one. I was thinking of something else.
So he's a 3x3, huh? He's actually...
Oh yeah, he's a huge. Absolutely.
He's a huge.
And this one is Karzuk. This is your big bad evil guy, the stone statue. You can see it's here. It's got some... It is a really, really heavy miniature. I would say this one weighs almost as much as the Rune Giant does. Just because of all the plastic involved here, there's a lot. And this is the statue of an enlarged kind of Karzug, which of course, as soon as you put it on the table, no one's going to expect this statue to be animated and come to life. That will never happen. They've got some more wire here on his weapon, so stop it from breaking around. Moving. So you can see this one comes right off, and there's this part, the joint that goes in. Let's see if I can put this on. There, so there's two attachment points. There's one that slides into the haft of the weapon, and one at the shoulder, and it all goes together. And there you have it. That's pretty big. Quite impressive. The paint job on this particular one, it's difficult to pick up here, but this isn't just a simple primer. Whatever it is that they've done has a deliberate sort of speckled gray. And the texturing on all this, it really does look like it's made of stone. I don't know whether you're really picking that up on the camera or not, but it's an impressive
You can see the speckling, but I'm sure it looks much more granity in person.
Yeah,
but yeah,
you
can see a little texture
I
going
can
on.
see on the particular, I don't know if you can pick that up in the camera as well, you can see some striation marks here. That's in the sculpt itself, and what they're trying to achieve is if this thing looks like it has been chiseled out of marble or stone, and it really does look that way. It's quite impressive. That's some pretty cool stuff happening there. Rather impressive, and give you an idea of the size of this thing. I mean, side by side with the Rune Giant. I don't know if I think if the stone statue has Karzug's spell casting abilities, I think that Rune Giant is toast. But anyway, it's certainly appropriately epic for the power level of that particular encounter. Now we get to the surprise part. This is, I don't know what's in these things. We'll find out. In terms of the packaging, because I know that some people are going to be wondering here, and I don't know whether this is the same packaging which you're going to see next week when this is released or not. I mean, obviously this stuff was delivered to me about 2 months ago, so this may have been part of an initial test production run, which was sent back to WizKids. I really don't know whether these are the actual production packages or not. Obviously the packaging is, but whether it's been sealed in the way that you could expect in the store, I don't. I simply don't know. It's possible that they are, and it's possible that they're not. I know that if I pull on it, there's some tape here you can see at the side. And in other times there's been some different security tape which has been employed by WizKids, so I don't know if this is what you can expect in the retail version or not. I'm sorry, I can't help you with that, but they're two small parts, they're two small pieces of tape. Certainly you can tell whether they've been tampered with, and I don't think that they're going to be able to rip them open or otherwise tamper with them so that you wouldn't know. In that sense that it's going to tell you. But obviously they haven't used, that sort of hot glue mess which was employed on the D&D mini line, which caused you to rip the cardboard all to pieces just to get it out. And what we have here, I'm not sure. Okay, it's kind of the stag head guy. Yeah, this is the Wendigo. Obviously, it's a large. The base sort of tapers off in his legs. Again, he's standing on some kind of clear sort of style basing material, which is kind of cool. Paint job is adequate, pretty good. I wouldn't call it dramatic, but it's definitely serviceable. And over here,
Hey, Kingmaker GMs, you'll be able to use that one in the future.
yeah, quite true, quite true. And here we have, let's see what we have for these. I'm not even sure. I should have brought my glasses down. In any event, yeah, we have, obviously you've seen this particular mini before during the course of the exhibits by Mr. Mona on his Friday blog. Now this, I can certainly tell you, is the Harpy. And that is a much, much better miniature than the Harpies have had in the D&D line previously. The overall wings are more outstretched. I can see the feather detailing on them is better, and it just looks more appropriate in size and scale, and that's what a Harpy should look like, as opposed to some of the miniatures which have been previously released by Wizards of the Coast. You'll be happy to get that one. And this is one of the Ranger. It's one. I think it's Amiko's uncle or father. I forget the actual relationship between them. But anyway, this is one of the denizens of Sandpoint, and ultimately is an important individual, or at least the family is important later in the Jade Regent adventure path. That's what that particular miniature is. I really like the detailing on the bow. You can see that it's been strung and the bowstring looks appropriate. Very cool miniature. I think that will see some use either, of course, during an NPC during the course of running Rise of the Runelords, which is what this set is all about, and probably various player characters will want to use this one at the table over the course of time. I can see my eggshell stuff is starting to pile up. That's sort of the nature of the beast when it comes to this style packaging.
Hey, I got a frugal GM tip for people who want to find a use for that stuff.
Oh, yeah?
If you're like us and you buy a lot of miniatures that weren't for D&D or Pathfinder specifically, you can actually use that material. You can deploy that material pretty well and make basing materials. And once it's painted, you can't even tell it's plastic. So I end up using a lot of that stuff in my crafting.
Oh, okay. Let's wear that. Another style. Let's see what we got here. Okay, again, it's pull it out and it's facing one another, and you can tell a miniature here has come loose. And in this particular case, it is a medium size which came loose. This looks like an ogre kin. Part 3. Series. Ah, there. Oh, ho, ho, I can tell you who's going to be using this miniature. Just a moment. Yeah, this is Shalelu, I think. This is one of a miniature representing one of James Jacobs' characters. And this particular NPC appears in Rise of the Runelords, as well as Curse of the Crimson Throne, Second Darkness, and Jade Regent. I think she's the most featured character in the Pathfinder Adventure Path line. She's obviously an elf with a bow. And
Who's that?
Shalelu. Well, this is about to be, of course, this will be Yumi in our Age of Worms campaign. I'm sure that Cherry will like the use of this particular miniature.
Yeah, she's a great fig. Yeah. Great for characters.
Yeah, yeah.
Great for PC.
That one, I'm sure, is going to be used at our table, but Italy. At least not immediately. This, I can't read this one. Maybe you can read that. Does that come in? There we have it. The Shining Chill. Rather impressive in terms of the detailing. And of course, as you can tell, a lot of the plastics which have been used in this line are transparent and semi-transparent, which is something which we didn't see in Heroes and Monsters, and in the Rise of the Runelord set, it is on display throughout the set. To give you the same idea again, if you look at the basing material, a little more close up, on the rock, that of course is La Lamia Kukrima. see it on display there.
I would pronounce that kakrima.
Maybe so. I don't claim any particular exclusivity on the nature of pronunciation, particularly of made-up words. But I was hoping the transparent material on the bottom of this Wendigo would show up, but it hasn't. But still, same idea. Okay. And here, of course, we have an example of the Ogrekin. I would really enjoy having 8 or 10 of these to use during the course of encounters. But obviously, amassing a collection that large is a significant expenditure of money unless you're going to buy them as singles. The large figure rather, and this was the Stone Golem. So that's the Rise of the Runelords Stone Golem. Interesting. It's kind of this. I mean, it's a flat and looks like it's been cut off by a stone carver in terms of the top of its head. An interesting look. Otherwise, it's dramatically posed. And there's been some washing. And this is not just a monocolor, quick slap job, paint job. So there has been some washing and blending in terms of the paint here. It's a pretty impressive mini. Face on this thing looks quite dramatic. Yeah, if you can see that in the picture, but certainly it has a bit of a sort of a skull look, and those eyes are actually both the eyes and the nose are actually carved and hollowed out directly from the plastic material itself. That isn't just a couple of blobs of paint. So it's an impressive looking mini. Bear. Certainly in terms of its size and its heft, this one is a little smaller than the Dire Bear, which was featured in the D&D mini line. It's not as bulky and as large a miniature, although it's quite appropriate in terms of its scale. And it is a large, and looks like it should be a large. 2x2 seems to fit nicely. And of course, it doesn't have all the big, huge spiny bits, which was the style which was used to signify a dire creature during the course of the 3.5 artwork in line. But still, looks good. Pretty significant teeth. Perhaps a little too large. Well, I don't know. I guess you can debate as to whether those two top canines are perhaps a little larger than they might be in real life. I can't really say, as I've had a large grizzly bear growl at me up close, live, and in concert, but certainly it looks suitably threatening. Very nice. Okay. This is the Yeth Hound. That's showing up quite nicely. The quality of the sculpt is very decent. Perhaps it's a little blurry here on the camera, but I can tell you that there's the mouth itself has been carved out, and the teeth and inside of the mouth have been painted so that the inside of the mouth is dark. It's not an accident. It's not just a trick of the camera. That's the way this particular miniature has been designed. It'll be great use at the table. Of course, it wouldn't be Pathfinder Rise of the Runelords without some goblins. And this particular goblin is the Goblin Commando. Nice sculpt. Good paint job, actually. This is a fair bit of time has been taken with it in terms of the detail. I mean, it's a pre-painted plastic mini. It's not a golden demon version of a huge heroic scale mini. You know, you need to adjust your expectations accordingly, but certainly the detailing looks to be a little better than it was on the Heroes and Monster straight out goblins. Headdress reflects it, and what can I say? I love the goblin artwork in the Pathfinder line. It's, as does everybody else, frankly. It's become sort of the mascot of the company. And this is an impressive figure. Who's this? You can see it. Viorian Deccan. Great detailing on the paint job. Looks great. The sculpt is nice. And I can tell you, in terms of feeling the overall plastic, I think they've adjusted the calibration of the plastic on this particular mini. It's not as stiff. There's some wobble going on here. That's a happy thing. That's not a bad thing. So it's a little. This thing is going to survive in your box, moving around between your home and your game if you game outside your home a lot better than some of the other miniatures which we saw in the Heroes and Monsters line. So that is clearly an improvement in terms of the overall nature of the plastic that's being used. Happy to see it. Still, the detailing on the figure is pretty good, and you know, there's some. It's the small stuff. You can see that there's, you know, the creases and bends in the cloak and that kind of stuff are there, and these sort of dramatic spike stuff on her shoulders. They're wiggly as well, so the calibration on the plastic there has been more in the nature of a D&D mini, although not quite there, but certainly it's a softer, more resilient plastic, which is much less likely to break. So that's a definite improvement. What else do we do here? Check out that lovely large red dragon. Very impressive. I don't know. I'm sure there are others who will prefer the styling of the large red dragon in the D&D mini line. Certainly, they've had some pretty cool ones, but I like the look of that. It's a nice miniature. Aha! Now, when this particular miniature was shown on the blog, as I recall, it did not have and was clearly missing some tattooing details, which Eric promised would be present in the actual production version of the miniature. I don't know whether you're going to be able to see it very well here, but they are there. There is some detailing on the miniature which hasn't previously been shown. You can see the braids of her hair coming all down the back of the cloak. Very nice, and I expect this one will see a fair bit of use at many people's table, as someone is playing a female sorceress or wizard. Prime example. Oop. Another mini of the goblin. I can tell you, just by picking these things up and moving them around, they do not clink. The miniatures which were present in the calibration of the plastic, I'm guessing, which was used in the Heroes and Monster line, it was brittle and it had a certain hollow clinking sound to it when you moved your miniatures around. And these definitely have a different sound to them. So obviously the plastic has changed. It's less brittle, and you can tell that it is just by handling it in your hand. It is not the same. Goblin dog. It will show up or not there, but that is what it is. Well, you'll have a chance to use that during the course of the first part of the Rise of the Runelords. Quite an ugly mutt. Only two left. Almost done here. Protective tape. Now this is obviously one of the ogres. And I think that the sculpting detail and the capturing of motion in this particular set of ogres that appear in Rise of the Runelords is quite remarkable. I don't know whether, in terms of the overall feeling of motion that has been captured by whoever sculpted these particular minis, has really been done as well previously in any of the, well, certainly not in the Heroes and Monsters, but any of the D&D mini lines. I'm not sure that in terms of making the particular miniature feel like it is actually in motion in terms of the sculpt has ever been done as well as the three ogres are. This is quite a remarkable sculpting job. And this is just simply the ogre. The paint job on it looks to be pretty good. I can see that there's some shading. It's certainly better than I'm sure the large majority of people would be able to paint on their own. And of course, I'm sure that there are exceptions, and there are many of you out there who are master painters and can put it all to shame. And if so, good for you. And if not, well, this particular guy seems to have a bit of a problem. Blood on his figure and weapon. He otherwise has a rather impressive cut to his cloak, almost as if he's a nobleman. I can't imagine who that could be. Less said about that, the better. Is that going to come into focus here or not? Come on, give me a break. Looks like it's not. In any event. You'll recall, if you saw this particular figure in Eric's blog, that I believe the sword had been broken off on the rapier in terms of the overall miniature. So I don't think we had a really good shot of this one on the Pathfinder Battles mini site, if you were gone there and have a look. But I can tell you that the weapon is not brittle. It has been softened up. So I don't know what happened in the particular production version, which was photographed for the Paizo blog, but in any event, they have fixed it here. Otherwise, you can see there's the scabbard is sticking out of the figure on the side. Looks pretty good. I am sure that there are many rogues who will end up choosing to use this one as a player character over the course of time. Never mind whether it's encountered as an NPC or not. Look at this, you will see that this is a red cap. One of the dangerous fae, which has been otherwise redone in a number of Pathfinder encounters. I believe this one has its own bestiary entry now in any event, and it first appeared back in Rise of the Runelords. Large. Pathfinder, very interesting mini, quite large in terms of its scale. Sort of compare it to a standard PC. Definitely feels bigger, looks bigger, 2x2, which extends beyond the base in terms of its tail. Definitely a very cool mini. And here you can see is what the ghoul figure will look like when it has not lost its arm. So out of the entire box of, whatever I had, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11 of these things, I guess. And we now have the first double out of 8 boosters in this particular case. I'm quite happy to receive it because now my ghoul has an arm which has not been broken off. Temros, NPC, 2 axes over the shoulder. There's a great illustration which for this particular figure which appears in the book as well. And in fact, I've put a version of that on the my Rise of the Runelords review on Endworld, so you can have a look at the artwork that goes along with this in the book. And nice figure. And the last one to be looked at out of this particular unboxing is, of course, the other. Yeah, this is the Warrior of Wrath, and a version of this particular, the artwork that this is based on also appears in the Player's Guide, as well as in the Rise of the Runelords book. I used it in the review of Rise of the Runelords. It's kind of the weapon in that version, which appears on the review, is reefed and crackling with lightning, but it is a very cool two-handed sword mini. And I expect this one will see a fair bit of use at your table, also for PC use, never mind just for NPC gate stuff. So there you have it, a preview of the unboxing of the Rise of the Runelords Pathfinder Battles, the second main set in WizKids licensed Pathfinder line. If I had to choose a favorite miniature out of this group, well, I guess it's pretty easy. The Treachery Demon / Glabrezu is clearly, I think, the best one, which is going to appeal to gamers generally. But there's a lot here to like. I would not say that any of these miniatures are bad. All of them are good. The overall quality of the miniatures themselves is markedly better than we already saw in Heroes and Monsters. And Heroes and Monsters, in terms of its quality, was pretty damn good to start. So certainly I think WizKids has upped its game. I don't think there are any of these which could be termed to be bad. You know, there were some during the course of various of the D&D miniature lines. You got some commons and some really pretty stinky minis sometimes. I don't think any of these could reasonably be placed in that category. All of them are good. Most of them are excellent. And so that's certainly, for the cost, I guess at least it is matching up with the increase in price. They're upping their game. Again, if there's any problem at all with the miniature, with the Pathfinder Battles line, the only problem is with respect to the price. These are expensive miniatures. There's no getting around that. You're going to have to spend a pretty penny to get the whole set. And that may be more than many of you can afford, or at least you're willing to pay, even if you can't afford it. But in terms of the overall quality of the miniatures, definitely WizKids has raised its game. And I can certainly tell you just from handling the miniatures themselves, the plastic is less brittle and should stand up under use. Certainly better than Heroes and Monsters has proved to be, and I've had a couple of those break on me over the past 6 or 7 months, just 2 of them. And in this particular case, definitely better. I really do like the Lamia Kukuriwa, which is, I mean, that's a common. That's a freaking common, and it is a great mini. I will certainly look forward to getting as many of those as I possibly can. In any event, thanks for having a look, and we'll be back with another unboxing at some point in time when there's a new set, maybe January, Shattered Star. Thanks for watching.